Hello everyone and welcome back to the Netherworld Bibliothèque. My name is Vervain and today I am in the fiction section to tell you about our latest acquisition, which is Texas Ranger by James Patterson and Andrew Bourelle. The version we have was published in 2019 by Arrow Books, and the cover photography is by Trevelyan via Getty Images and Archangel. I will leave links to all of those things in the description section in case you would like to purchase your own copy. So the way that today's video is going to work is that first I will give you a quick summary of the book so that you know what's going on. There won't be spoilers, I won't give you much more information besides what's on the blurb. And then after that, I'm going to give you my thoughts on some of the topics that come up in this book. Alright, let's get started. Texas Ranger is set in present-day Texas, and it follows Rory Yates, who is a Texas Ranger. If you don't know who the Texas Rangers are, they are part of the Texas Department of Public Safety, and they have a wide range of responsibilities, including conducting criminal investigations, border patrol, and investigating corruption in public officials. So our story begins in McAllen, which is a town in the south of Texas. Rory is chasing after a coyote who is alleged to be trafficking illegal immigrants into the US and treating them appallingly. It's a really fast-paced book. By page 27, there's a shooting, there's a murder, which is separate to the initial shooting. Anne, who is Rory's ex-wife, is found dead, and Rory is the prime suspect. Now, I'm not spoiling anything by telling you about Anne's murder. That is written on the blurb, so I'm not spoiling it by telling you that. Rory becomes a prime suspect as he is the ex-husband. Pretty early on, it's realized that it couldn't be him because he was 5 hours away in McAllen when the shooting happened. But he's told, you can't have anything to do with this case. It's your ex-wife. You're way too close. It would be unprofessional. He, of course, doesn't listen, so he's stubborn and he's insubordinate, and he decides to conduct his own informal para-investigation. He does this by getting information from Freddie, the medical examiner. Freddie went to school with Rory, as did a lot of people, because the book is set in a small town, and that's something that comes up quite often. So Freddie passes on some updates about the case to Rory, even though he shouldn't. And so armed with this information and his suspicions and his grudges, Rory conducts his own investigation and in quite a few cases almost makes a mess of things. So there's a few instances where he gets into scuffles or he gets into full-on fights. There's one part where he, I would say, almost contaminates a crime scene. So he's very lucky that he's not arrested. Again, people are compassionate, you know, it's a small town, a lot of people know him, they choose to be lenient, but there's a couple of times where I think he could have been arrested, and there's a few parts where he's downright reckless, like who are you helping if you go and contaminate a crime scene? So yeah, we mostly follow Rory as he's investigating the murder of his ex-wife. And then there's a second murder which is also close to Rory. I won't say who it is, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, he's back in the frame for a moment because it's like, hey, two people next to you have turned up dead. So it's not Rory. You know all throughout the book that it's not him, but yeah, now two people close to him have died. Could there be a third person next to him that's maybe in danger? I don't know. One way to find out, you just have to read the book. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of the themes that come up in Texas Ranger, and I just want to give you my thoughts on them. So the first issue that came up was infidelity in the marriage. Now, pretty early on in Texas Ranger, we find out that Anne had an affair and that this is largely the reason that her marriage to Rory fell apart. We also find out that Rory mostly blames himself for Anne's affair, and this is something that I completely disagree with. It's not your fault if someone chooses to cheat on you. That was Anne making a bad decision, and that says something about her character and her lack of morals. Everyone thinks for themselves, everyone is in control of themselves, we're all in charge of our own actions. So I do not accept that, oh, that person cheated on me, but somehow it's my fault. I absolutely do not accept that logic. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me read you an excerpt from the book and then I will come back and elaborate further. I explained to Sarah Beth that I was angry about the adultery for years, but recently came to understand that it was mostly my fault. My wife was at home, hoping to have a life with me, while I was working long hours for the Texas Rangers. I'd be gone late into the night or wouldn't come home for days, always on the hunt for different criminals. Okay, so what I just read is that Rory is working long hours, doing overtime, making extra money, which is going to be beneficial for both of them. They're both going to have a greater level of financial security because of all the extra hours that he is working. Secondly, he's doing something for the greater good. He's serving the community and hunting down these dangerous criminals. So I find it really insulting that Anne decides to betray him, like literally betray him. He's trying to do something that will benefit both of them financially and that will benefit the community. And she sees this as an opportunity to be really hurtful and deceitful. Firstly. Secondly, if she's feeling lonely, if she is feeling neglected, she should communicate that. And I think this is good advice for any relationship, not just romantic relationships. If something isn't working, if you are upset, confused, frustrated, say that to the other person. They're not a mind reader. Use your words and say, hey, look, this is my perspective. This is how I'm perceiving things. This is how things are affecting me. And then hopefully both of you, if you care about that relationship, will try to negotiate or make some compromise. So I think she's wrong to have the affair. She's very bad at communicating, or total lack of communication. Rory's not completely blameless. There is a part later on, much later on, where we find out that Anne wanted to do couples counselling. I don't think the affair had taken place, so I don't think she had admitted to the affair yet, but she did want to do couples counselling, and Rory said no. And I do think he is wrong. Again, I think maybe this is coming like a little bit late in the game, but if your partner is reaching out and saying, hey, we've got some problems, I think we need some outside help here, I think Rory should have said, you know what, let's try. Let's make the effort. Anne was at least willing to do this. I think Rory should have made that effort as well. And then finally, if Anne's like, you know what, I'm going to have an affair and this relationship just isn't working for me, she again needs to use her words and communicate that rather than being deceitful and hurtful. Because being an adult doesn't just mean turning 18 or turning 21. Being an adult also means behaving in a mature way, and sometimes that means having really difficult conversations. Okay, it's difficult for you, but it's the right thing to do. So yeah, just to wrap this all up, Anne had an affair. That was her choice to do the wrong thing. I do not think Rory needs to accept responsibility for the affair. Maybe both of them could have tried harder to communicate and to make more time for each other, but you should never accept the blame if someone has chosen to cheat on you. That's their bad decision. They need to own their actions. One really good lesson that I think we can learn from this book is that the way that you act in public doesn't just reflect on you, it reflects on all of your communities, all of the groups that you're part of. And we're all a part of some group or another, whether it's our family, whether it's our religious, cultural groups, whether it's our schools, the companies we work for, if we play sport, if we're part of a sporting association. We're all part of different groups. And there are a couple of scenes in this book where Rory, I really think, does some damage to the reputation of the Texas Rangers with his behavior. There's a few scenes where he gets into scuffles, he flat out gets into fights, he disobeys orders, he's insubordinate, and I think he's really lucky because he's a Texas Ranger and because people are compassionate and they're like, hey, he's just lost his wife. Sometimes they're a bit lenient with him, but there are times where I think he could rightfully be arrested, and I think he's being selfish and not thinking about how his actions are negatively impacting on the reputation of the Texas Rangers. So I'm going to read you a couple of excerpts that exemplify what I'm talking about. Being a Texas Ranger is an honor, son, Creasy said. You've got to uphold the integrity of that star on your chest. Creasy was right. With fewer than 200 Rangers in a state roughly the size of France, most police officers see becoming a ranger as the pinnacle achievement of their career. The citizens of Texas view the position with a respect, even a mystique, not always shared with city police or the highway patrol. So this is exactly what I was saying. The way that you behave doesn't only reflect on you, it reflects on your collective, and you want to behave in a way that upholds the good reputation of your collective, in this case the Texas Rangers. So you want the public to respect you and to be truthful and to cooperate with you. You need to behave in a way that maintains that respectability and that goodwill from the community. And I'll read you a second excerpt that shows how Rory's behavior is also affecting the way that different police departments view and interact with the Texas Rangers. So just give me a moment to find that. I urge Purvis to formally request assistance from the Texas Ranger Division, but he dismisses the idea. If you're any example of the kind of help I'd get, then we're better off investigating this on our own. And this is exactly what I'm saying. There could be other Texas Rangers who are very capable and who would lend assistance to this case, but unfortunately, Rory has been a bad example of who the Texas Rangers are. And I should clarify that he personally cannot be involved in this investigation because it is his ex-wife's murder. So one, he was a suspect, and two, he's just too close to it. It would be unprofessional, it would be biased. So that's why he personally couldn't do it, although judging from the way that he personally has behaved, I don't think he would be welcome anyway. Lastly, I want to talk about the way that the prime suspect is written. So pretty early on, the police realize that it's not Rory, so he's excluded, but there's another prime suspect. I won't tell you who it is, obviously. I don't want to give you spoilers. About halfway through the book, the audience or the reader finds out that this person did not commit the murders. So we know it wasn't this person, but the police don't know. However, this person still appears suspicious because we still hear about them being guilty, about giving a false alibi. They do some really dubious things where they have some hitchhikers in their vehicle and they pull out a knife and they say, oh, you know, you'd better be careful. There are some dangerous people out here that can do bad things with knives, but not me. You know, here's some money for your trouble, off you go. So it's like, hang on, what's happening? Am I sure this person is not the prime suspect anymore? Like, I'm pretty sure I read that it's not them, but they're still doing some really questionable stuff. And I thought that was really interesting. It really made me question if I had read things correctly. And it also kept the book going because there's one person who is the main suspect. And if you exclude them halfway through the book, then what are you going to do? Are you just going to have the police chasing their tails and the reader is going, no, you're wasting your time, it's not this person, I know it's not them. So I thought that was a really interesting technique to still make this person look suspicious even though you had just cleared their name. And so concludes today's review of Texas Ranger by James Patterson and Andrew Bourelle. Let me know what you think of this book if you've read it. I will see you in the comment section. And also feel free to let me know what you think of my presenting and or editing style, as I'm always looking to improve my content. But that's it for today. Thank you for stopping by, and maybe I will see you next time.